Well, apologies for the delay, everybody. A little bit of technical issues on our back end, but everything is all worked out. We're back. We got 2 more sets to go, jumping over to the NA region now. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm Dolson. Joining me for the first set of NA, none other than Kresnik. Going to be a fun one to look at. I mean, Hype Unit on one side going up against Exile on the opposite side. Lots of fun to be had there. I mean, looking over at the Europe games, though, before we jump into that, long first couple sets of the day, 3-2 in both of those sets. All comes down to the final fight in that last one as a little bit of a recap. And you know, Penta, all business going back and forth. Maybe some standing shifting happening over there in Europe. Sour team still on top at 3-1-4. All business 3-1-2 for them. So that rematch suddenly has a lot of impact on it. One Trick Pony falls, and as do Penta, 1-3 for both of them. Tough for Penta after a great showing last week. Tough games here today. I
don't think those standings are indicative of the skill of the teams
no,
either.
They're not.
Seriously, with how close those games were, with how close all the games have been this season, like, yeah, 2 of the teams are 1-3, but either of those teams could beat either of the 3-1 teams straight up. Any day of the week, honestly.
And it's going to be a lot of fun and something to keep your eye on as we move forward. I mean, the way that the Hi-Rez Expo qualifying goes, all of these games mean so much. Yeah. So, you know, at only 4 games in, we're a third of the way there, and, you know, everything can change moving forward, though. We're going to flip the script, though, jumping over to North America now. As we said, you got Hype Unit and Exile here in our first game. See how the standings are before we jump into that one. I imagine that Hype Unit is up top, and yes, they are at 3-0-4. Sanguine right behind them, followed by 5stack and Exile. So a 1 versus 4 matchup. Standings-wise, you'd assume that this goes Hype Unit's way.
Yeah, but last time they played, I believe it was pretty close. I think it came down to a final fight on Splitstone, if I remember correctly. So,
sure.
A close game between them, and I would expect more the same. I think Exile have shown promise even after their first little slip-up, I think, at the start of the season against 5stack.
I mean, if you look at it, I mean, there's 0-3 Exile are with a 5-map negative, so they've at least picked up 4 maps along their way. I mean, they lose 9 maps technically to lose 3 sets, but they had 4 maps in the middle there. So not really getting blown out of the water up to this point, maybe just haven't hit their stride. But looking over at Hype Unit, absolutely the favorites going into this one. You look at the ex-PPL talent that they bring to the table. And again, on paper, not only just standings-wise, but they're that high in the standings because of the PPL talent, but they showed a tendency to have a hard time maybe closing out some sets, a lot of their games coming down to the final fight, and just not clean as you might expect from these guys.
Yeah, they drop maps, I think, almost every set throughout the season, and it really doesn't say to the skill of that team because they have Dethroner Pain. I think they've been performing really well, but it is a new team altogether. I mean, a lot of players getting kind of brought together for the first time. So maybe as time goes on, they'll be able to find that clutch to finish out the sets. And luckily for them, they've been able to fight at least a little bit, even in those close games.
I mean, if nothing else, they're 3-0. So, you know, you move on from the past, hopefully find yourselves a good one here today. I mean, it's going to be pretty indicative of this region, a 1 versus 4. We'll have to see how it plays out. Let's jump into map bans, though, and see what the teams are going to take off of the table here. Ascension Peak for Hype Unit and Fish Market there for Exile. We got to see a little Fish Market today. Unfortunately, I was not a part of it. Bazaar and Shattered Desert. Which one are you weeping for?
Oh, Bazaar.
Bazaar.
I mean, I like Shattered, but interesting by Exile, they kind of banned both of the flat, wide rotation maps that are very open, so Shattered and Fish both out. That makes me think they like tanks more because those are kind of maps you can triple DPS on at a distance. So definitely a style ban, I think, from Exile.
I'm looking forward to seeing how you know, Payan and Edgem are both able to kind of move into this set, depending on what maps we're playing on across this, because Payan in the PPL showed a lot of flexibility. Bright Marsh certainly caters to a lot of that. Blasters, flankers, all that sort of fun stuff certainly come out to play on Bright Marsh.
Yeah, and it's a snowball-y map, so if one team gets a lead, I believe this might be Exile's pick, we'll find out in a second, but if Exile get a lead here, they can take it to a map win, and an early momentum shift would be great for them.
And, you know, momentum is the name of the game here in our first 2 sets, both going 3-2. I mean, it was such a tug and a pull. I mean, nobody really was able to establish that much momentum except maybe
it was 4-0s back and forth.
Right, and then 4-0s. I mean, it's been such a wild day up to this point. It's either been a 20-plus minute just slugfest of a game or a 8-minute 4-0. I mean, not too much in the middle there. We jump into picks and bans, though. Genos, Eevee, gone for Exile. Torvald, Maeve on the opposite side, of course. That opens up Khan. Super impactful in our last European set. Willow and Makoa would be a smart lock-in, I think, here for Hype.
Also, Khan picked over Makoa and Atlas.
Yeah.
That is kind of interesting. I don't even know what that really shows to me. I think they want to play a little slower, because Khan can kind of pull back with his shout and his shield, deny a lot of aggression. Grover and Leon, so Atlas still not picked, both flanks out. Really interesting style from them. Again, this is a very pokey, kind of passive composition so far.
In this game,
It's
you
tough,
win
though. I mean, if
or
Hype
you
Unit
die.
end up going
There
Atlas
is no
here,
middle ground.
I mean, do they really have a true point tank, or are they looking to aggress for? I mean, we'll have to see what they end up locking in. And Nara would get them a little bit of that point presence, and maybe Exile realize they don't want to go one or the other. So Atlas, you know, not banned out, not picked up yet, still around for Exile. Atlas Khan is a very scary matchup to go into, but Nara Cassie are going to be 3 and 4 over there for Hype Unit.
Yeah, and Willow would be, Drogos would be a good pick for Exile. They have the biggest counter. Plus, Cassie Willow on Hype Unit's side means they don't really have a set counter. And Makoa and Nara too, so no Atlas together either. Atlas unpicked, unbanned so far, which is crazy. I think this might be the first. I think he has a 100% PB rate.
Yeah, that's not something I would have assumed coming into this matchup, coming into today. I mean, normally he is an insta-lock if you pick him up there, but neither team opting for it here. Whose draft do you like better on Brightmarsh?
I like Exiles. I like the uncontested Drogos, and I think the Barrack will be very strong if he can find his dodges from the hooks.
And Willow on the opposite side been very impactful today and throughout a lot of our sets, so I'm excited to see how those wings flutter here as we head down to Game 1, of course, on Brightmarsh.
Thank you guys so much from the desk. Here we are in Game 1 once again, just as those guys, beautiful people up on the desk had mentioned. We are on Brightmarsh. We saw not the Leon, sorry. We saw the Willow, we saw the Drogos, we see the Blasters. They are there, will play a very pivotal role throughout this match, but no way to know yet.
But you know what we don't see?
What?
Atlas.
That's true,
Still
actually.
blowing my mind that they mentioned it. And, you know, I guess it happens every now and then. But I'm excited to see what they're going to be able to do here. Leon's always good on this map. Drogos, and as of right now, hovering Fusillade.
Wow, okay.
When he leaves base, I'd love to see if he's still going for that. It's been a little bit since I've seen a Fusillade Drogos, but admittedly, if you're not looking to stay in the sky like Wormjets gives you, if you're not looking to get maybe shots around the corner the way Combustible gives you, Fusillade, you do a ton of damage, and he was a threat. I mean, a while back, that used to be the only talent people would run with him, and it is a deadly amount of damage.
We see the first few shots ringing across the battlefield. Brightmarsh are finding a few rockets, a couple here and there. Fire spit to get that Anara really low, but she's already back to full health thanks to Mr. Maldamba being able to support him in a good way. No one's really committed to anything yet. 45% on the point. Barry clearly feeling the aggression, the power that Anara can exude, but that's such a good ceiling as well. Leon manages to get out, but long shot. The Khan doesn't find himself as lucky. Dies for his princess.
Payan making sure to remind you that he is incredibly good at the game. Again, by the way, just as Blasters tend to go, he is definitely one of the premier ones in the minor league as of right now. And with his presence, with that amount of control coming down from the Willow, there was no one on Exile who could feel comfortable or confident getting anywhere near this objective. And Dethroner just kind of controlling the mid-fight and the mid-room. No one even stepped on him. I mean, this Drogos is hitting him hard. 850 a shot is a good chunk, but it's not enough to kill him.
I mean, no one can really step up. Like, you see all the rockets and the shots it is that are flying by all these people. They do finally manage to get the kill on Tay, which I believe is Exile's first kill on this map. They are being zoned really hard. The Lightmate comes through, but Payan, man, this is what I was talking about, or at least what I was going to lead with before. They are giving them too much respect, especially with this Willow, man, with Blast Flower. She is in the spot she needs to be, and you clearly see it there. They're coming through. Just the damage on her side, giving her too much respect, allowing her to siege up, not pressuring her is their downfall. She's just sitting there. Really hasn't even really been forced to move. That's the first that we've seen her really move out when she's had Fayfly, and she definitely made it work.
And honestly, the biggest thing out of it was not only just the Fayfly, but the movement to get up there, the angles he was holding, the shots he was finding, like everything about that ult was what you wanted a Fayfly. It keeps the payload moving forward, and now they're rolling forward. I think the next best thing you could be given is exactly what they just got, a Dragon Punch that doesn't connect into a kill onto the Drogos. Again, it's just lining up perfectly here for Hype Unit.
Edgem and the rest of those guys, man, they're holding it so well. Tay finding the kill, not just one, but two for his own. Drogos unable to actually push down into them is going to allow Hype Unit to cap this 2-0 against them. Now the Fusillade can be very, very powerful. You did mention a good point that it used to be taken all the time. However, though, I don't agree with it on Bright Marsh, because the thing is that Payan, this Willow, has been set up in the back. No one's been really doing any pressure in the back line, but at the same time, how can they? You have a Makoa and you have a Cassie just on the side. They're literally watching for Khan Leon to really just push around there, see what it is they can do. They have to find some way and to break it up. Like, look at the slash lines.
It's also interesting because he could be, if you are going, I mean, you know, 0-1 and 0, so he's not really exceedingly dead, not really exceedingly finding kills, but if you're running Worm Jets here instead, there's not really anyone to take you out of the sky that often. There's not a lot of damage. Like, maybe Edgem can find the shots, and based on what we saw towards the end of the last round, I think he could, but there's a lot of cases where I think this is relying very heavily on the direct shots, and while, again, it's a lot of damage, you are putting a lot of pressure on yourself, I think, to perform at a level that you don't have to if you have Worm Jets.
Right, exactly. Here we go. The Dome Shield being forced to use that so well. We see Drogo's taking this priority up here now, and again, he actually does manage to get the hook. Edgem manages to finish off the Grover. Khan stuck up against the wall. Edgem finds 2 kills for himself. A triple kill for Edgem as well. Tay finding the 4th one. 3 kills are in the name of Edgem. Tay finding 1 for himself, forcing the Drogos back. 75% on the point for Hypune, and they're going to end up capping it.
Yeah, at this point, they have full control. Tay is already up in their face. Throner has moved up as well, and that's the confidence. When Inara leaves the objective, that's when you know you're feeling truly confident you're going to be able to grab it. They find themselves up 3-0. Streaks burning across all 5 members. And again, it's not even, well, not even small plays. It's huge plays that they're having come through. The Ancient Rage set up into a triple kill from Edgem. Like, it's just, again, kind of served on a silver platter for them with the way they're playing right now. It's almost impeccable.
Dude, another Dragon Punch just ends up falling flat. Is he going to die for it again? He does. It's the 2nd Dragon Punch I've seen this game that he's hit. Payan, it's been in the same spot for most of the entirety of this game, only really moving out when he has Faith Flight, when he has the advantage, finding these shots it is that they need. Just, he's bullying them in their spawn, literally long shot, not even really moving, just eating shot after shot. Where can they go in this scenario?
I mean, that's the perfect example of what Faith Flight should do, right? It's going to give you a lot of space and a lot of zone, and I can't think of anything better than literally locking them in their base to give you a bunch of space. And so now they're going to be able to continue this route, come around the corner, and honestly, the thing for Exile is your Leon has to start being able to get rid of the Willow in the sky. You have to be able to find trades against Edgem, but right now, it's just hard. They're hitting every shot that they're firing, and that is the most deadly I've seen Hypune.
I agree with that, sir, because, I mean, you see it right now. Exile all the way back at base, but nice overpower on T-Mac. The awareness. It's like, all right, if you're just going to keep peeking that little window right there, I'll help myself and the rest of our team to a free kill, especially if it's on your healer. The rest of Hype Unit, you see them already peeling back. Want to make sure they don't overextend too much in this scenario, but they are still in a good spot. 45 seconds left on the clock will allow T-Mac to come back, provide the healing it is that they need. And at this point, if they really wanted to, which they don't have to, they could just use a lot of their ultimates to try and win this.
Yeah, I mean, 91%, 6-0-6. Payan not only staying alive, but he's getting a lot of poke damage right now, which is just ticking that up. And again, Faith Flight is a great ender if you can use it. You can go up into the sky, buy yourself some space, and he's in a perfect position to just jump up and do it one more time.
Here we go, Dread Serpent on to Bagel. They saw him all the way in the back. Nice Dread Serpent to follow up, but I believe almost actually finally did hit the Dragon Punch that he needed to, but will Grover be able to make it back? Not if Willow comes down like a homing missile, finally killing the Grover, as well as the wall to make sure they keep themselves alive just a little bit longer. They are still on the point, but Edgem going down might be the downfall.
A couple of good shots here. Bagel Wow in a good position, but he's taking a lot of damage in the process, just trying to find a good angle, and no one's on. Oh, overtime going to be reset. Throner going to be able to touch down one more time, but you lose T-Mac, and that means you lose your support.
That's 100% true, but Leon currently is being run down. Lightman gives herself immunity, but that's not going to keep her alive for long enough. Shell Spin to get out of there with that shell is popped down, trying to get the hook onto Drogos. This isn't a good spot right now for Exile to be able to get these free rockets. They do find it on the Tay, but Baron and Inara both extremely low. Or the guard to keep herself alive just a little bit longer, but the double kill from Drogos. At this point in time, you've been missing Dragon Punches for pretty much, well, shouldn't say miss, not finding correctly what it is that you actually need in this scenario to close out a lot of the momentum it is that Hype Unit has. But as long as you find it when you need it, especially on that Dragon Punch on Tay, staggering them a little bit, and the overpower onto T-Mac was enough to set up Exile to potentially try and make a comeback.
And honestly, what we're looking at is one thing, a little surprising that Hype Unit were able to live as long as they did. I think it's a testament to how skilled they are as players. They lost their support and were still up for 30 seconds.
Right, exactly.
Right? The tanks were doing a lot of work there. But you burn your Ancient Rage. You did burn your Seismic Crash towards the end of the round there. And so coming into this, Overpower is available. It's the only big ult right now online for Exile. But with Fusillade, as long as you're hitting some direct shots, I expect to see Dragon Punch come up. Where those go and where those target and who they kill is going to set up this fight, potentially give Exile their ability to capture one, but they have to pay more attention to the objective. Right now it's 33% just because Dethroner moves right in. He's playing perfectly.
And this, oh, nice overpower on the Pain, though. This is what I was talking about. Gotta clip that Willow's wings. Can't allow her to be where she needs to. It's gonna force the rest of them back. Pain was in a good spot to be able to get some damage. Also access a lot of the LOS that he needed in that case, with the Dread Serpent to keep himself a little bit more forward. Gets the hook onto Bagel, which I believe, I don't know if they planned that, Dread Serpent to Fear Con forward, allowing the LOS, the line of sight in this case, to be able to hook DeLeon, bring him in, try and get something going, but Dragon Punch finds its mark, allows almost to get the kill on the Dethroner. Now there's only 1 point tank. We're going to try to see what they can do, but Barrick does actually go down.
Payan back in the fight, doing a lot of good damage again from the window, and has that Fey Flight charged up. It's going to go up into the air, but this time Exile were the ones in the right spot at the right time.
Yeah, I agree with that. Presence to try and see if he can get a good shot onto Willow. Doesn't quite find it, though. They are on the payload. They're pushing it a little bit more slowly but surely, gradually, as you should say. The alignment is up. Dome Shield steadily building. No ultimates on the side of Hype Unit. Nothing really that close to being able to get it. The closest there is the Ancient Rage at a good 70%, but at the same time doesn't mean they can't put on a good defense.
Coming up around and just trying to hold on to the ground. The biggest thing I think for me is Hype Unit need to be so commanding in this defense, which they're already off to a decent start for it, stalling out Bright Marsh, but I mean, they're 50% through. There's a little under 2 minutes left on the clock. You need to do this and either use your ults once you get them with this Ancient Rage or this Dread Serpent that are charging up, or you need to be able to accomplish this without using anything. And unfortunately, it seems like it's getting pushed maybe a little harder than they expected.
A lot of the hooks are landing, finding their mark, which is going to be really good. Dread Serpent to follow up again, which is what I like to see. You normally see Dread Serpent being used to either clear a point, really clear a room, try and get some momentum back, used defensively. In this case, T-Mac using it offensively to set himself up, not set him, but his team up with a couple kills. But 3 kills on the side of Blue are going to mean a lot. Dragon Punch, Whirlwind, Overpower, along with the Ancient Rage being up on the side of Makoa is going to be the only ult that Hype Unit has, along with Scout that just built up. But the ultimates are looking pretty good in Exiles.
I mean, being able to set this up, again, a lot of closers, but the problem for Exile is that even if you convert this, you're only tying up the game 3-3, right? So you have to, again, you weigh, what do we want? Do we want this point badly enough to drop an ult? And is that ult going to be worthwhile not having it on the next point fight? So you're going to have to play it very carefully with 40 seconds left on the clock for them. Bagel getting rid of Pan, admittedly trading out, but in a good spot to find Tay as well. This is good for Exile.
Yeah, get himself back in there. I definitely want to make sure they put a little bit of pressure onto the Dethroner as well to see if they can get anything going. Fey Flight as well. A kill onto Longshot might be the start of something, especially with Pan in such a good spot. Just getting so much damage onto Ancient, onto the Barrick in a good spot. But the Presence and a couple shots from Leon are going to take him down.
Trying to find the right positioning. A good hook on the Aspect is going to be able to create some trouble. But this Fusillade, it's hitting a lot harder than people are used to. That's the one thing. It's not been around for a little while, so it is finding the chunks that it wants to. And it's just been really good. It's one of those talents that it's not bad. Drogoz has 3 that are good. It just depends on what style you're feeling, but right now Pan's just playing it better.
Yeah, double kill for him is going to set Hype Unit in the driver's seat, at least for a little bit. The kill on Pan, though, might open up something, but nobody else really on the point. Almost not descending to try and at least get a little bit of a touch, but at the same time, I mean, what can you say?
You know, I know it said Fusillade as we got in the game, but looking at how well he's staying into this guy, I'm wondering if he switched over to Worm Jets before we ended up coming through. Because he's flying pretty well for a dragon that should have some clipped wings.
He did.
And yeah, so it is going to be Worm Jets instead. So that makes a little bit more sense because he's hitting hard,
Point spawning in 15 seconds.
but he was just up in the air too much. And that's,
Right.
again, it's just safer to be there with Wormjets, but at the same time, I feel like he's not quite capturing as much as you would like to, right? He's getting a lot of good shots onto the tanks, admittedly, which is creating a lot of space. Has almost killed Dethroner and Tay several times and has been able to chase him down. But I think this Drogo's, like, if it tightens up just a little bit, could be the difference between Exile losing this with Hype Unit maybe taking it just in this mid, or with them being able to survive to see not only another round, but maybe find themselves up 1-0.
Exactly. Yeah. Good couple shots on the Grover to make him a little bit more dangerous to deal with in that case, making sure that he doesn't actually All right, it's really in a bad spot. He is holding control in that high ground. Dragon Punch to try and go through. Not find a kill under the Dethroner. He is going to find it, which is going to be good for him, but at the same time, it's going to get him caught.
75% though picked up for Hype Unit. So even though you lose everybody, you do have that lead. You have a comeback mechanic enabled here for Exile, but it's not going to be the end-all be-all. They should be able to match, probably get up to 99% before somebody on Hype Unit is completely comfortable touching, maybe only into the 80s since the Dethroner got back here incredibly fast. But they have control, and that's the most dangerous thing to be playing against.
Oh, unfortunate. Hit his head right on the ceiling. Bonked it just a little bit, unfortunate, but what's not unfortunate is being able to find that damage and eventually the kill onto Longshot. Now Grover's off by himself. He already used the Vine Grip to make sure he got out of that situation, but at the same time, with Hype Unit cleaning up 3 kills, this might be the end.
Well, it's going to be 5 kills, and that will be the end. And it comes down to 2 big things. One is that Edgem was hitting hard on
Right.
Cassie, and Pan was unrelenting is the only word I
Right.
can think of, really, when it comes down to the way he was playing Willow. Just Fae flights in the perfect spots. Even though he bonked his head there and didn't quite get the over-the-roof arch that he was going for, he bonks his head and immediately goes to essentially kill off Khan. Like, it was just the best of every situation. They knew how to adapt on the fly, and that gave them the leg up.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to really talk about just anything it was that was happening on Hype Unit's side, purely because Payan was in such a good spot most of the time. He was firing those shots he needed.
Yeah.
Every time you saw Dethroner get low, Maldamba heal came out clutch, allowed himself to stay on it. Barrick was struggling a little bit with the Grover heal. The Cauterizer started to come online. He was finding himself having a little bit of a harder time trying to stay against that Inara, especially with the Maldamba backing her up, and you can see it on the post game here. 99,818 damage for the Drogos, 114,000 for Bagel. But Payan, his damage may not be as much. It is more than the Drogos. It's a little bit less than Bagel's, but him and Edgem, like both of them, had such a pivotal role on Bright Marsh.
Yeah, and honestly, I think a good chunk of it has to do with how Pan was playing the angles. Of course, Edgem, and I think it's Edgem, Tay, and Pan as the trio, because Edgem and Tay were controlling the ground. We didn't watch Edgem as much, but Apartments was a deadly area to go into because you would be met with a Makoa and a Cassie. And then if you weren't in Apartments, it was a deadly area because Pan's up in the sky just raining hellfire onto everything and anything that happens to step out there. And with all of that amount of control, along with the Throner just controlling the objective and kind of controlling the mid with T-Mac behind him, there was almost no worry. Like, it's not much of, did Exile make mistakes? Did they slip up here? As much as it was that Hype Unit just played Bright Marsh incredibly well.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they knew what they wanted to do coming into it. The triple kill, you can already see. Nice shot from Edgem. I actually didn't notice that it was that precise. Very, very well done from him. And you see that he was playing a very pivotal role, almost really looking for any sort of hit in terms of the Dragon Punch, but nice dodge roll to get himself out of there. A little bit of damage, hit him with a disengage bolt, which is why the big game damage was there. You see him moving around from spot to spot. Him and Tay controlling this apartment, pretty much right apartment for the entire time, was so big for Hype Unit.
Yeah, and again, that's the biggest thing. They controlled the sides. They controlled the safe zone for when Willow's in Fae Flight, and if your safe zone isn't safe anymore, then all of a sudden you are, well, you're screwed either way. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. You could not find a safe spot to stand in, and I think that's the problem for Exile is Drogoz wants to stay in the sky, and when he was up in the air, he was able to accomplish a lot, but he couldn't get the pressure onto the point I think that they needed. That's why I think we've seen a lot of teams kind of flutter. Combustible will be picked up on this map for that reason. At the same time, it kind of depends on what's on the other side. He was good, but Willow just came out a little better.
Yeah, I agree with that, and the first game going to Hype Unit is proof enough, but right after this break, we'll head right into Game 2.
Respawn, the official gaming chair of the Paladins Minor League.
It's time to close the book and brush game one aside, and that's exactly what you're going to want to do if you're Exile in this one. A convincing performance out of the favorites and Hype Unit coming into this one. A little bit of a road bump there in the middle to make it 4-2, but convincing nonetheless as we go down the stretch. What happened there, Kresnik? I mean, there were moments that Exile looked good, but Edgem just kind of farmed that game.
Yeah, I mean, the DPSs were just kind of on top. I think had a pretty solid performance, but Bagel couldn't really find his footing to do what he needed to do. The tanks, I thought Ancient was doing pretty well, but yeah, Longshot and Bagel just on the side were kind of getting bullied really hard.
I remember last week as well, I think it was the long set that Exile was in, you know, Bagel, that name, you know, he jumps out to me because on the DPS, he certainly can perform. I think he was playing... Maybe he was playing Kinessa or Leon or something on Bizarre, and that's what I'm thinking of. But at any rate, certainly a team, a roster of guys in Exile that can absolutely hang with the best, and that's what they're showing here. A 4-2 performance. It is kind of lopsided slash line-wise, but down the stretch there, I mean, still a very close matchup as we look towards game two. I mean, drafting-wise, any errors stand out to you on Exile's side there?
No huge ones I felt. I thought their draft was actually pretty solid for that map, at least. We can see what they bring into the next map as well. If it's similar to Bright Marsh, we'll have to see if they bring us something similar. But Serpent Beach, a much more vertical map, so we're expecting to see Maeve, Eevee, both banned on the last map, so that could carry into here because they're power players here too.
Got that. It was the Bugsy Eevee game that we watched on Serpent Beach earlier where fortunately, they lost. All Business did that time around, but it was such a fun one to watch. It was the Eevee kind of Willow 1-2 duel that we saw going on the entire time. So much fun to watch. Unfortunately, you're not going to get to see at least one side of that. Same bans as far as Eevee and Maeve go this time around. Geno's still available, but Makoa and Atlas both gone. Atlas not picked or banned. That's worth noting in the last game, but he is banned out here. Hype Unit, though, first pick Leon immediately.
Torv open still, too, so they might be able to do kind of a Nip-style Torv Leon play. Exile going for it. I guess they do not want to give up double backline to Hype Unit, which can be strong as a defensive composition on this map. So Genos Cassie going to them. Damage boost, plus that means that a point tank will have a harder time, and Inara is going to take some big game Luminary damage.
That's right.
That's very hard to account for in some of those fights.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's too much drop-off with Edgemon Leon instead of Edgemon Cassie. I mean, it's good to have that, I would assume, for Bagel over on the Exile side, but, you know, Edgem just as good on Leon. So you got to look out for that, but I think a smart draft there from Exile to get the Genos and the Cassie on their side. I mean, not only does that take a lot of damage from Hype Unit, that provides a lot of damage over to the Exile side of things, tear through that Grover, tear through that Inara, and the Ruckus. I mean, that shield, if they end up going Wrecker on the Cassie, that Ruckus shield, not going to last very long, but Pip and Ruckus looking like maybe the final two here for Hype.
This is a lot of pressure on a Bagel on Exile. I feel like this is your Cassie has to do very well to win this game. Hype kind of shifting to a very sustain-y composition, plus a Ruckus, after Exile took both off tanks, so I think good draft by them to make that happen. And Willow will play a really big part in kind of denying that sustain with the dead zone. I mean, Pip Grover into a Willow. That's a lot of AoE that can just get denied.
I think Exile have a very good draft here. I think they have a pretty good shot at maybe tying up this series. It's going to be Serpent Beach. It's going to be game two. Let's do it.
Let's do it indeed, fellas, and everybody watching at home in the Mixer chat. I'm ready to see if Hype Unit can continue this streak. And I do agree with Dave. I do agree with Kresnik, both of them on the desk. They do seem to have a better draft for them on Exile's side.
Yeah, I think they have one that can win and a lot of strings in it. I mean, we were just talking about how good the Willow and the Cassie were. The question is whether or not they can play it to the same level that we just saw out of Payan and Edgem here for Exile. I know they have the capabilities, but you're doing it against something different now. You're having to play against Payan with the Pip, and you're going to have to play against Edgem on the Leon. Those are the things that are going to maybe shake this up. But Luminary, I think, lends you the boost you need to even the playing field.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. We already see that the first shots are happening. And the Ashe, man, getting melted a little bit, has to shoulder bash her way out of there, make sure she doesn't actually end up getting caught. Actually has to make sure that she regroups with the rest of her team. And look at Cassie, dude. Super low, almost one tap. Not able to do it as she needs to. Pip all the way in the back line, making sure that he provides not only that pressure, but I do like the spot he's in. Not only is he controlling high ground while Exile's getting hit from the front, Pip's already in the back.
Yeah, I mean, being able to get that kind of angle on them is incredible, and you can watch slowly but surely as he charges up and is standing actually in a position you typically get to see. Our snipers maybe get up here a lot. Sometimes you'll see blasters like touch down but then drop, but he's pincering them down. It's kind of awkward because you have to fight on two fronts now, right? You have to be worried about the Pip that's behind you, and you have to be worried about, well, the Ruckus that might be rushing you down, or Dethroner who's going to be rushing you down.
They already see that shots are going either or, but 99% onto the point for a high unit. This is the first time it is they've had to back off the Pip all the way in the back when you realize that the rest of the team is pretty much already pushed forward. Tay and Payan finding both kills on their own. Edgem finding the third for their team, wipes out 3 of them. Grover is down, but at the same time, Payan's in such a good spot once again to be able to apply this pressure.
And the biggest thing is for Payan not only to be able to make that flank and do it so well executed, but he's also self-sufficient, right? You can send Pip off on their own, and it's going to be cool. You have the movement to get in or get out if you need to. You have the heal to keep you alive and the damage to kill anyone that might happen to challenge you. So it's literally the best of every world for this flank, and Payan being able to kind of get the kill specifically onto Aspect first that he was able to found, well, it makes it even playing field and damage. All of a sudden, no Luminary boost to deal with, and all of the support taken out from under Exile.
You see the Willow, man. He's getting a little bit too frisky right there. Tay jumping in and right in front of the Ashe. Actually gets Void Gripped, allows the rest of Exile to pretty much tear him apart. A little bit too aggressive in that scenario, forcing the rest of Hype Unit to back off. Seismic Crash, Evil Mojo, Hexafire, Enlightenment. With the Whirlwind steadily building in the works, it's going to try to be enough for Hype Unit to possibly not necessarily push us in, but to try and get their momentum back.
Jumping around. My eyes are almost always going to be, I guess, on two sides. One is where's Payan going and where's this Evil Mojo going, whether or not it's going to accomplish its goal. And this time, the answer is not. And that Cassie, that Willow, like where they go, what they can do, because those are the big players right now for Exile. And they're going to need to be able to do a little bit more. They need to take down Dethroner, need to control and corral this Pip. And so far, I'm not seeing a ton of it.
Neither do I. Dethroner being forced to back off, living really, really low, man. Had to make sure that he actually backed off well enough to where he was going to continually eat damage. They are on the point, a minute left onto the clock as well. Exile holding this bridge. It's really, really hard for them to be able to do something, but Dethroner's going to try and walk it in now. A big shot coming out from Edgem is going to leave Bagel a little bit shook.
Between the Grover and the Pip, these two tanks are so healthy. They're dropping their heals whenever they need to on them, and it's just so helpful to have them come through. I mean, it's been keeping Dethroner topped off perfectly, and it's interesting to see that dynamic. It's not often you see Pip throw out his heal for really anybody else. Happens occasionally, but a lot of the times it's right at his own feet. But having that come through, I mean, there's several times you see Dethroner about to die, maybe Tay about to die, and they just get the full reset from both supports. And that's the thing that having a Pip or a Grover play kind of the hybrid damage role always works better for, because they have that extra healing.
There's the guard is trying to come out, give himself a little bit more immunity, live a little bit longer, but not long enough. Clearly, Dethroner actually does get taken down. Unfortunately, Payan getting knocked back just a little bit. He is taking a few shots. It's not going to be enough to net them the second point, but it will allow Exile to tie things up.
They'll just keep themselves, again, level in the game. But you're going to have to pay a little more attention this time around, right? And that's going to be the question. How does Exile change for this round? Ideally, someone's going to be kind of keeping eyes behind them for the pay and flank. He's 3-0-0, and very similar to last game. No one's really paying attention to him, or no one's able to lock him down. And you're going to have to if you want this to go your way. Almost Ancient, Bagel, Aspect are probably, even a long shot at that point, like almost all 5 of them are more than likely going to be going for high ground. They will separate and kind of split up, but the ones that get left behind where, you know, Aspect is sitting, they become a very easy target for a
True. True, very true. We see Edgem at the top of the damage charts as well. Cauterized 2s, Record 2s, and in Edgem's case, is going to allow him to be able to burst down those shields a little bit more on Ashe, and not only Ashe, but Khan. Pain's in a good spot. If he wanted to hit an Evo Mojo in this case, it would be pretty good, but he heard the Fae Fly, immediately tried to back off, does not want to commit, but almost getting the damage onto him. Going to allow Ancient to finish him off as well. Sardonis all the way in the back is going to force the rest of them off the point.
That's one way to do it. I mean, the Fae Flight really does force you to play in certain areas, and on Serpent Beach, there's not as many to hide under to keep yourself safe, and you can see that damage dealing a ton here. Good knockback. Not enough to find the kill right there. The Vine's going to be able to come through, but enough to get the damage down, and that's all you need for a couple of kills, and now Exile in control.
100%, 54% onto the point for Exile. And not only that, or else talk about a situation where the Evo Mojo was just used. The Throner find the kill on the long shot, but Bagel find the kill on the pay-in. So the Evo Mojo was used. It's not going to be enough. They're not going to capitalize on it like the rest of his team would have been able to. By the same time, 99% onto the point for them. They're cleaning up one after the other, allowing their team to do what they can.
A little bit more of a zone,
Yikes.
or, well, I guess no more of a zone. They're not going to need anything extra to make sure that one goes through. A couple of kills there on Atay and Edgem, and they seal themselves the deal. And this is a remarkably strong Exile. Compared to what we saw on Brightmarsh, they're finding, I think, every step they needed to, or need to now, versus last game, where it just felt just slightly off, right? Before they were tuned up to 8, now they're tuned up to 10. They've been able to kind of find themselves where they want to. Hype unit, we're at 11. Now they've kind of gone down to a 9. I think they have a little bit more to go forward with. And a lot of it's going to depend where Leon goes. Pip getting isolated at the early end of that round really did help them out on the side of Exile. And then a lot on this Ruckus. I haven't seen too many crazy plays from Tejas yet.
Yeah, neither have I, really. We've just been seeing him like move across the board maybe every now and again. Of course he has used the Hexifier before, but this isn't to just disrespect him, but this is more so the case that we just haven't seen him really setting anything up, really going in, doing what it is that he needs to really try and get his team's momentum showing. Really, we've just been really paying attention a lot to the Throner, to Pain, to Edgem, even a little bit of the Grover, but Tay himself, I feel like he's having a little bit of a rough game, especially when Cassie starts getting record 2.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Cassie is a very strong and almost perfect counter to Ruckus when she has big game and record. So being able to melt through that is going to be pretty easy. And Exile are almost being able to convert this. That's going to be a good Evil Mojo to stall things out, but they're not finding the kill.
No, they're not. It actually forces Khan all the way back, but literally no damage whatsoever onto him in that Evil Mojo form. They are looking to make sure they can get the kill onto Genos. Hasn't killed him yet, but I knew that Tay jumped down there to see if he could try and get something going. Does find one onto Ancient. Is looking for some of the others, but Cassie down there with him is going to be a big problem.
Going to be good shots. Barely living through that almost is incredibly low, but everyone on Exile stays alive when they need to. They haven't even used an ult to keep this going. They are knocking on the door, and right now, Hype Unit, they're not able to answer because they're all getting sent back to base.
Exactly. I mean, like, almost knows that the Throner is right around that corner. He wants to make sure he throws that dead zone down, get a little bit of the damage, the Whirlwind to come through, as well as through time and space, see if he can do anything. But he found the Inara, waited for that Earthen Guard to run out just a little bit, just to make sure they can go up 3-1, which I do respect that. They still have Fae Flight, still have Scout, still have Assert Dominance.
And it's perfect. Like, through time and space, to echo Nick's sentiments around the ult, is it's never one you're mad about missing, right?
Right.
It's cool if you hit it. It's awesome if you hit it. It's a huge bonus. But if you don't, it's like, okay, cool, whatever. You're going to charge it up soon enough anyway, and it's a huge 2400 burst. Other than zoning, unless you connect with it, there's not much you can really do with it. So throwing that out there, it's really nothing to look at there for Aspect. Whereas Ancient, that's the perfect time on this kind of map to do and use your overpowers, where you can guarantee a lethal kill without having to rely on your team. You can just throw them right off the edge. And for someone like Inara, that's about the best you can hope for.
Right. Out of curiosity, would you ever really want to try and prioritize a morale boost for a little bit of faster ult charge? Does it already charge quickly enough as it is for that not to even be considered?
For Genos or Overpower?
Genos, sorry.
For Genos, no. You go Chronos, try to get your cooldowns as low as possible,
Right.
and then probably go into Haven. Like, I think it's nice maybe if you're like really far ahead, but theoretically if you're really far ahead, you won't have time to build up your morale boost. It's just a lot of credits to invest into an item without getting as much bang for your buck on Genos.
All right. That actually opens up a lot of, understanding in terms of how he is approaching this, how Aspect is actually going about this. The scout actually does go through, make sure he gets a lot of damage onto Edge him. The blast shot will be enough to make sure he finishes him off as well. Aspect finding the kill onto Pan is going to be a lot in its own right. The rest of them, though, falling one after the other. Hype unit, I don't know if they're going to be enough.
I mean, it's just Cassie played
It's not
really
gonna be
well. Genos played really well. The two aggro tanks created such a zone that it was very difficult, I think, for Pan to accomplish what he did in round one. And that was kind of the big thing. Round one, they had the perfect flank, something you would really want to see, maybe an EV4 or a Mave 4 that we've seen a lot on this map. And it was exactly what you wanted out of the pip. But every round after that, they knew to expect it, and so they just chopped it off before it could happen.
Yeah, I agree. I also agree with the fact that they decided to opt to take the Willow for themselves, just try and deny that from Pan. We saw how pivotal it was on Brian Marsh, but at the same time, I think he just played Willow well, and they didn't want to give him access to that either.
Well, it's just Willow, Cassie. They do really, really well. They're really good at everything they do. And Bagel, I think being on a comfort pick, obviously not doing too much else, maybe, 1, 2, 3 shots ahead of Edgem in terms of the damage numbers. But the difference does come down to the blasters, their efficacy as the game went on. And I don't like throwing them under the bus, but I'm going to have to say, Tay, I don't know how much I felt the impact of this ruckus coming through. And so I don't think it, like, as much as it is maybe a good choice, against Cassie, it falls flat on its face. And for this game, there was no crazy Hexafire. There wasn't a lot of control coming out of it. That's where, having the Con and the Ashe on the one side really kind of hurt them.
Yeah, I agree. 8-2 and 10, 8-2. Another 8-2 slash-slide for the Cassie as well. But Ancient, man, what else can you say? Just Con doing Con things, being that aggressor was they need, getting those overpowers it was that he needed as well. Gets walled off with the rest of Exile, able to finish off the Throner. He's already zoning T-Mac, along with the rest of his team. Vine Grip on there, gets killed for himself as well. I mean, Con, once again, doing Con things, being aggressive, waited for that Earthen Guard to run out. Force push by. See you later, right off the side of the map.
And the tracing as well. That's one of the things about Ancient that was really, really good during the first phase as well, was just when he comes in, the impact you feel from his presence on frontline is tangible in the game. And that's something first off, you're always looking for in an off-tank, but that changed the pace when they were on Bork, when they were Bork. It changed the pace for them as a team. And so seeing him kind of continue that route and continue having that size of an impact on the game is what keeps Exile tied up right now.
Of course, yeah, it's just such pivotal play coming out from them. Serpent Beach being a map it was that they just won on. Now that the score is tied up 1-1, we'll see what the teams have in store for us in Game 3 right after this break.
Alienware, the official PC provider of the Paladins minor league.
Lightning strikes by my window, hits my chest right in the morning, like a warning. Could have slept here for days. I felt your heartbeat, felt your mouth breathe, but it's not real. We were close to see the sun, but clouds got in our way, and so
Well, Game 2 comes to a close, and we are all tied up here 1-1, down to a best-of-3. And if our other two games today have anything to say about it, maybe a Game 5 on the horizon. Good performance there, Kresnik, from Exile. across the board. The kind of 1-2 punch. Ancient kicks down the door. Bagel Wow fills the space, does the damage. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the ult value, I think, from the tanks was a lot to do with. I mean, overpower and assert dominance used properly are really overwhelming, and I think that was just too much for Hype to overcome.
I have to ask, though. This is just pure curiosity. Pure question.
Yes.
Is that getting too cute, picking up a Ruckus instead of something like a Barrack or something of that? Or was Ruckus not really the
Ruckus
problem?
is pretty solid on Serpent Beach, I
Sure.
think, is why. You can push across the side. You have the rockets to splash and kind of cleave through the team, but in this meta, at least against a Cassie with that boost, it's just not enough.
Yeah, it was a lot to fight into, absolutely. And Exile, they win the map. We're tied up at 1 as we take a look at map number 3, see where battle will be done. And it's going to be Frog Isle, one of my favorites. A 4-2 for Hype, followed by a 4-1 from Exile. That continues, honestly, the storyline of today, where both teams are just kind of beating on one another. Like, on any given map, it's not really all that close, except for a couple points there from Exile on Bright Marsh. Frog Isle, a lot of fun, though. Always have to point out the sniper potential, the flank potential. And, you know, the drafts, the picks and bans for Hype and Exile continue to be the same. No Maeve or Eevee.
Yeah, so I guess the flank potential we can kind of ignore for now.
Maybe, I mean, Drogo's not really a flank, but the blaster, he loves himself some Frog Isle.
He's on Frog, he's more of like an indirect damage.
Right.
With the fire spit, getting people knocked around the corners. Makoa Atlas, Eevee, Maeve are going to be the 4 bans, so most flanks out of the way. I have played personally against Androxus on this map. Not recently, so I don't expect to see it now. I'm sure Nick is very happy where he's listening to it if that were to happen, but I have a feeling it won't. We're probably going to see more double backline, maybe like a Cassie playing on Danger with the sniper in the window. That sounds the most likely to me for how this game would go.
Well, it looks like they're going to opt for Strix Drogos Exile. I think that's smart. I mean, Drogo's such a presence here, especially with Maeve and Eevee taken away.
Yeah.
Does this maybe, with the bans the way they are and with Drogos going first, does this open the door to something like a Willow maybe?
What, for Hype unit?
Yeah.
It could, but I don't know how it would work. You'd have to be like hard focusing the point.
Sure.
At that point, that would have to be your goal, and I feel like you would just lose the Danger fight if that's how your comp ended up going. I would rather them have a more consistent hit scan. I could see maybe a sniper and a Victor.
Right.
That could be something they could pull out, but I don't know if that's what they're going to end up with.
I think I guess you're like just waiting on Fayflight to have some sort of in the air impact there.
And into a Strix, I mean, you would just get sniped out of the air.
Absolutely true. Shoot that one down very quickly, both the suggestion and the champion itself in game. Strix Drogos, maybe a Genos here just to compound a little bit of that damage, especially on Barrack. One of my favorite combinations controlling that front line here. So Hype Unit are going to have to reveal their last 2 damage dealers. They're not really going to worry about that because they know what Exile are working with here. They have Strix, Drogos on their side. Just one frontliner maybe for Exile at the end of it.
There's still a counter pickup for Exile there. They could go triple DPS. Barrack triple DPS on this map has been a good pick historically. But you kind of do need a mobile flanker, but Kinessa Willow. Listen.
Try and run.
I'm not saying it was
Let's go.
I'm not saying it's unpickable.
Wait, I don't want to I'm not celebrating just yet.
Wait.
Until we're trolled.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go!
I think it's going to struggle. I think it
No,
really
right.
will.
I brought it up, but you brought up a good
Yeah.
point why it might not work as well.
Yeah, especially if they end up with Ashe, I think she can kind of just ignore the Willow spam.
Yeah.
She can just walk past it. The Drogos will be shooting the ground under. I mean, if anyone will hit consistent air shots on the Drogos, it would be Pan
Yeah,
to make that work. But it's really just going to come down to like how much will they control Danger, and the Ashe wants to control there. She's going to be pushing way across.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, though. It's similar compositions once that Fayflight kicks into gear here. We're tied up at 1. We're headed down to Frog Isle for game number 3.
Thank you guys so much from the desk. We really appreciate that. It's actually going really well. In game 3, the score is tied up 1-1. Hype Unit Exile. Either team at this point, considering how close the games have been, could really, really just make this to be a really good set.
I am very excited to watch this one come through, just because not only do we get the sniper battles, which is hands down one of my favorite things to watch. Edgem with a sniper in his hands is always a masterpiece to be able to come through. But I'm also interested in the matchup they were mentioning on the desk, where it comes down to how's the Drogos going to do combustible on this map. Wormjets is essentially a death sentence when a sniper's on the other team. But up against this Willow, Ashe is going to be able to have a lot of control. They're going to be able to maybe even corral the sniper. So Hype Unit, I'm looking forward to what they can provide to these picks.
I am as well. We already see the fights breaking out all over the place. Inara Barrick fighting on one side, Khan fighting the flanks on the other, along with the Willow. Kanessa taking up her advantage against Strix, trying to see if they both can see who can get the most damaging shot first, and force the other one into hiding a little bit. And we already see 36% onto the point for a hype unit. Barrick looking really, really low, has to use the shield, failsafe boost to make sure he gets out of that situation, which is going to play a pivotal role in his survival.
Trying to hold at least some semblance of control here on ramp as the damage keeps going back and forth. Edgem's a little low. Bagel going to be able to find some good shots here as the Strix a beautiful shot over the wall there right next to Window to seal the deal and get that kill on Edwin.
Easy pop for Mr. Strix there. Finds it onto Kanessa. Battle Shout. Give himself some immunity. Prevent the damage it is that he'll be taking on Khan's side. 60% on the point for Exile. Steadily climbing and now overcoming the percentage that hype unit had on their point for a time. 81% for them now. Exile a little bit in the driver's seat.
Have to see what Pan can go forward with. The Faith Flight going to be popped. He's going to get some good shots down onto Ancient almost immediately and forcing this Barrick into an uncomfortable position. Still getting the splash. The tree's not enough to save you. And that's going to be a clean kill.
Easy money coming out from Payan once again. Willow making sure that she actually does the damage it is that she needs. Edgem finding a kill onto almost. The Drogos goes down. Strix being a little bit less than half health in this case. Now we see that Edgem looking for a good shot on the Generals. He knows exactly where he is. He's trying to see, trying to wait, trying to get the peek. He's trying to move in and out, trying to see if he can get past it, and he does. Allows himself to heal up just a little bit longer. Edgem cannot catch the kill on Generals.
And this is just comfortable. It's impressive from Hype Unit. They get that amount of control, and it's just patient play. Popping the ults when they get them towards the end there as well, but waiting around on the objective, not forcing anything until they absolutely had to, and then cleaning up kills where they force them. And it's moments like that, those are what give you a lead and what can kind of give you the control of the game. Whereas now it's going to change a little bit. You're going to have to play a little different. I think that was a Ying clone that Dragon Punch connected to. No, he cancels out, ends up maintaining that 30% and keeps going. But they're finding the kills right now for Hype Unit.
Oh yeah, they are. The damage going onto that Barrick very simply. The Thrower Nose is right around that corner. Probably going to try pressure him. Yeah, it's going to force all the rest of Exile back. And with Barrick holding that spot right there, it's going to be a little bit harder. We see that Khan is pushing in. Tay, make sure that he wants to at least get something going. Let them know, let the enemy know, hey, I'm here. I am running this section for right now. Make sure they can't get to where it is they need to. Shoulder bashing himself and allowing himself really to contest. But as soon as they get the kill, Hype Unit picks up that second point.
And just wow. Honestly, is the only real phrase I can think of when it comes down to it. Using a couple ults, not being afraid to throw anything out there, but only one death on that side. And that was that one beautiful shot Bagel found onto Edgem. And that was the only moment of reprieve that Exile got that entire time. But controlling long shot, keeping him corralled, not letting him come through, controlling Ancient, not letting him stand on the objective. With Faith Flight available, with Headhunter available, soon enough Illusory Rift, you have what you need on Hype Unit to deal with these tanks and keep your team in a position to stay aggressive and get aggressive. So Tay, and presumably Pan, once again on ramp, potentially able to fight right into long shot with no worries.
Yeah, I agree. The teleporter to throw himself out there, make sure he gets things started. Misses the first shot, looking for Ash. Misses the second one, but he is looking, well, he really should phrase that properly. Oh, nice illusion switch to make sure T-Mac can stay on the point. Throws out that illusion, swaps immediately to prevent himself from going off of the point. Illusionary Rift to give himself not only more durability, but also to make sure that the rest of his team can stay alive as the two of them are being pressured. That was very well played by Mr. T-Mac.
Being able to come up and still charge up, still pop the Illusory Rift was perfect as well. Dragon Punch is going to be coming through. That's not finding anybody unless it's the tail end. Finds a Ying clone there. Almost hits the Inara, but they still do enough follow-up damage to make the Throner sweat a little bit.
Yeah, 44% on the point for Hype Unit, 15 for Exile, getting their first few percentages. Edgem, it's a kill onto the Drogos, though. That's one member on Exile down. It's going to mean a lot for them coming to this next fight. A good, clean shot coming out from Edgem again. It's going to force Barrick a little bit back and behind the corner. No Strix right there. There's one shot. There's another. He's definitely applying pressure in so many different areas. The headshot means a lot, too. He finds the damage. T-Mac finds the kill, and that's going to net Hype Unit the third point on Frog Isle.
Couple of good shots here from Pan or from Edgem really will absolutely start this payload off perfectly. Good seedling already starting things off. And it's just these moments, right? He's being able to get so much splash damage. He's still finding really good angles to get damage, even though there really shouldn't be any damage being dealt there. And it's just unfortunate for Exile and I guess their pathing overall that they're taking. Where as much as it is, it's a boon. It's just Pan tracing really, really well. This Hype unit come into this. They have 3 ults available. They're about to have 5 if they keep it up at this rate. And that's a good way to seal the deal and find yourself a 4-0.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. We already see the pressure it is. The Hype unit is exuding with the overpower already there. I think at this point he's just waiting for somebody to make a misstep so he can actually punish them for that with how close the payload is. He wants to save it for just a little bit longer. Battle Shot to give himself some immunity. The damage from Drogos is a little bit much. Fire Spit to make sure he knocks him just a little bit. But the Fae Flight, I know that's good. I started something, forcing the rest of them back in the spawn. So many shots as well. Now that Ashe is one of the only ones left, she goes down. Barrick trying to shield himself, keep him alive right next to the point. Not going to be enough. Damage comes out. He goes down. Here comes the Seedlings along with the damage from Hype unit. That's going to mean a lot for them.
You can't shield every angle, I think, is the moral of the story there for Barrick, where it's just barricade up here. You can bowling ball reset as much as you want. Pan is just in the perfect position to keep tracing it down. Everybody else getting like that first, I guess, the beginning of Fae Flight, zoned immediately into base, allowing him to have the free will to just fly right over to Barrick. And once Barrick's gone, everyone else is still grouped up off on the side. There's no one to jump down. Like, it was just really good control from Hype unit.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it, a clean 4-0 second point for them. Overall, in this set, we saw Edgem getting the shots it was that he needed. Paying on the Willow. Last game, you saw them take it away from him. That's why you take it away from him. He knows when to go in. Fae Fly is going to play such a pivotal role. It did. Got over the shields for Barrick. Got over the shields for Ashe as well. And we see here on the post game just exactly how well they did.
And just shout out to Edgem as well, being able to come in there and find as many shots as he did. Bagel was top damage. He was finding just as many, if not more, connections. Just was not able to get too much. In fact, has the max streak of 1, which makes me worry now that I think back on it. I'm not sure how many kills Exile got. I guess we're about to see that as we move forward. Whereas Pan, you know, again, controlling. Tay being as aggressive as he was, yeah, and it was. The only kill he got was on Edgem. So I guess everyone on Hype unit now has the rights to tag Edgem on Twitter and call him a feeder. But only if you're on the team, because otherwise he's still probably better than you.
Man, unfortunate. Going out from Edgem, the one death, the only one on his side. Aspect is what's interesting me. 0-0-0.
Yeah, he nailed it. Look, if you're going to be a support and your team's not going to get any kills, you don't need any assists. If you're just going to go 0-0, you're undying, but you're a support player and you're not getting any kills, you're doing your job right.
Hey, man, I'm not. That's not even me trying to roast him. That's me genuinely being just interested. We're gonna
if
take
everyone else has a 0 in the assist column, he's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Here is the damage that Pan's putting out. Barrick, unfortunately, trapped behind that tree. Can't peek out. No one's in a good spot enough to be able to take apart that Willow. Either Longshot tries to charge himself out, but we also know that he died as well. The shots are coming through on the Blast Flower as well. That's the talent it was that Willow was able to take, allowing herself to do 100 more damage the more consecutive shots it is that she gets, and we definitely see it paying off. And for sure, Pan definitely bringing the pain.
Now, this is one of the interesting dynamics of the set. Because, and this is also something where the standings become misleading. Exile, especially if you look at Serpent Beach, they are a very prominent team. It's just the consistency of which it comes through, right? If Hype unit beat you down in the first game and then beat you down in the third game, then you have to kind of stabilize. You have to figure out what is it that we did so well in game 2. And if it's just the champions you have to work on expanding that pool a little further to make sure you can match on every single draft.
Yeah, just like the last sets it was that we saw with all business, so on and so forth. They had to find what it was they needed against Penta and make sure that they actually harnessed that, kept going, and now we've seen that Exile has to do the same thing. But right after this break, we'll find out if they can do it in Game 4.
Paladins Minor League is brought to you by Evil Mojo Games, developers of Paladins.
Well, convincing may be an understatement in that one. Hype Unit absolutely mopped the floor with Exile in that one. I mean, we got to see the one and only kill for Exile in that one when we were on board with Bagel. Hats off to Aspect, though. Goes undying in that one. Also unkilling and unassisting, however. But convincing performance from Hype Unit, jokes aside. Kresnik, that one was about as one-sided as you ever see.
Yeah, and I was originally doubting the Willow at first, but the Fae Flight, I wasn't thinking really about like being obscured in the trees. I mean, they really can't see you. They have to find those shots, and being able to spam down on Ancient kind of uncontested really helped in that first mid-fight because he charged Fae Flight so fast.
I mean, if you're Exile now at this point, I think push that one aside.
Oh, yeah.
Move on to the next one. I mean, at that point, it's over.
It's best of one. Every
You
game's a
gotta
best
move
of
on.
one.
That's right. Every game's a best of one at this point. I mean, nobody really fighting back. I mean, save that 4-2 on Brightmarsh, which still was pretty one-sided in favor of Hype Unit. I mean, both teams have kind of been punching back. I mean, this is almost poised for Exile to swing back, find themselves maybe a win on map number 4 here, which is going to be Jaguar Falls, map 5, question marks, if need be. Jaguar Falls open to plenty of opportunity for some flexibility, though.
Yeah, it's a map you can kind of run pretty much anything. Interesting that they would pick this map, I think, Exile would, after losing the more similar map at the start on Brightmarsh. But there are things you can run on Jag, I think, that you don't really want to Bright. Like more of the flankers, I think.
Right.
The flat ground flankers are better on Jag than Bright.
Well, in this case, the Mave's still gone here for Hype Unit.
Eevee first pick.
Exile are going to pivot off of the Eevee ban into the Drogo's ban. Atlas and Makoa both gone. Willow is going to be first pick here for Hype Unit. Torvald unpicked, unbanned in the last game. Unbanned, excuse me. Up to this point at least. Leon Barrick, though, for Exile here.
Yeah, now I said Eevee first pick at first because I'm like, well, if it's been banned this many games, I mean, come on,
Surely.
let's at least give it a run. It is Jag, so it's a map where Eevee definitely isn't favored. I would think some teams would prefer like Lex or any other character over it a lot of the time, but not going to come through. Leon Barrick instead. Leon most likely to deal with the Willow, and Barrick is just a really solid point tank on this map.
Yeah, I always love pairing anything with Genos. Khan has been such a force throughout the day. I look back at our second set. I mean, it's 5 games. I think Khan has played in almost every single one of them, and honestly was a difference maker across the board here. Grover for some good AoE healing. Barrick and Ash to fight around him. So a good sturdy front line there from Exile on the opposite side. We've seen Moji, and it's always been on Jag Falls.
Yeah. So,
you know, it has some merit here.
Well, I mean, you know, you want to supplement that Eevee, right? You don't want Eevee, so you go for Moji instead. It's the third in line, right?
Yeah.
When you get to maybe alphabetically. It's not.
I don't know. Prove it to me. Prove it to me. I mean, Fawn is loving this. He's the Moji truther.
Yeah.
And he's down in the booth. He's gotten Moji. He got Moji yesterday. He's going to get a little Moji today. Tyrant to round out the Exile lineup.
This Moji's going to have some problems.
Yeah, I don't know if the Moji's going to have quite as easy as the time this game.
Yeah, I think she's going to be able to get the Ash polymorphed and get her out of her ultimate. That's one big part of it. Yeah. But dealing with the Mark, I think it's going to be tough. The Mark is up more often than the barrier, so the Moji's going to have to really get supported to make this work.
Well, and Hype Unit need that Moji support to close out this set. Exile looking to extend it just one more. Fun. Congratulations.
Moji support. What support would you need other than me? I literally have the most support for Moji in the entire world, and this is what I've come to hear.
But Fawn has at least 6 Moji tattoos.
Oh, it's true. It's true. At least 6. At least 6 Moji tattoos. The support is all here. I'm ready to see my girl. Dave's made a good point. Sorry yesterday, sorry today. But once again, we made a point before. Jaguar Falls, you can really run anything. It's a very diverse map because of how often you're fighting.
And we're going to be looking at Toot here for Moji as well. Probably one of her most prominent talents. Being able to have that healing. It doesn't sound like a lot, right? When it's like, oh, it's only 600. But over time, it stands out, and it is able to provide a lot, not only for her, but really for the team wherever she decides to leave that. Of course, it's also just nice to have that kind of fallback opportunity, I guess. If you dash in and you immediately need to turn around, you're going to be able to have that, but you'll see her healing as well.
Oh!
And that's a lot of damage.
Yikes! But yikes in indeed for the enemy team. Exile taking a little bit too much damage than they can take in this scenario. Vine Grip to get himself over there. Grover and the rest of them have to group up, make sure that he's at least close enough to provide that passive healing. Moji damage is definitely on the board for one of the best damages in the game. I'm also not biased.
Absolutely not biased. 100%. I mean, like, that's part of the reason she's, you know, always banned, always picked. Either way, going to be coming back from base after getting presumably eviscerated. But 2250 health. Not difficult to burn through, but it's difficult to tear her down. Her barrier giving her immunity, right? Much like that, being able to kind of keep you alive and put you in a position to do that.
Shoulder bash to actually make sure that you can get the kill onto Edge. Ash is there. Moji pretty much running the rest of them down. Long shot, eating a lot of damage. Void Grid to make sure he lifts him up. Just gets the finishing touch onto him. Unfortunately, damage comes out on the Bagel as well. Moji's by herself, but you have the Khan, comes in just in time, but not before. Unfortunately, she can go down.
A couple of shots, but it's 99% here for Exile versus the 33 that has now been picked up for Hype Unit. So they're a third of the way there as they try to start this climb, but without Moji around to deal with this Leon, almost is just such a huge threat.
Yeah.
It's just ringing the bell of this Inara. Dethroner is getting headshot after headshot rung out on him.
We hear the Fae Fly that actually happens along with the overpower, but he actually manages to throw Longshot off just in time. 3 kills in 1. Overpower. Through time and space, along with just the Moji damage, was able to get 3 individuals in Exile. The 4th one going down to Edge him. The 5th one going down as well to the Moji once again. 3 of them respawn, but 2 of them are down, and that's going to now Hype Unit the first point.
Awesome, and now we have the moment of truth. I'd like to see Moji's loadout, just to be able to go through and know what it is. Greater Good, the lifesteal against enemies with the maximum number of magical marks. Of course, there's going to be the dog visit that comes through. Below, you're going to be able to kind of keep yourself alive, but 80 health per second while you're in Magical Barrier. Like, those little flavor cards, I guess, on the end, Cozy and Peppy, are the ones that are going to kind of keep you going a little bit more often. You're getting some cooldowns reduced, and you're keeping yourself alive in moments like this where you just need to fall back and keep yourself safe. And a lot of this is survival. And the lifesteal card, I think, is the biggest one, Greater Good. Just being able to get that, again, is more incentive for Payan to just dive and go in deep and do whatever he can to stay alive and, well, at that point, to find kills.
Right, exactly. See Moji holding the flank right here, and almost in this case, Leon taking a few shots at the Khan. They are pretty much pushing the payload a minute 30, so they don't really have to rush anything of what it is they're doing, but a nice presence finds its way on the edge, which allows Bagel to finish him off. He was literally in a sliver of health, only needed 1 more hit. He found it. Dethroner being pretty low, but also forced to back up, has to throw the wall, but the firing bomb bounces back off the wall, manages to splash right at Tyra's feet, but they still get the kill on Dethroner.
Send themselves up for a potential defense as they are able to get at least that. But this is one of those moments, especially with how the mid-fight went, it'd be awkward for Exile to get too aggressive here because of how much retaliation there was from Hype Unit. A lot of control through the Moji, through the Genos even, that were being able to get credits for those kills. So Exile, or for Almost specifically, he wants to just create as much space as he can and do this long-range Leon thing instead of trying to fight Moji and hurt them.
For sure. You definitely don't want to fight her in these choke points. She actually can do a lot of damage. It just sneaks up on you unintentionally through time and space as well. Finds a hit onto the Dethroner, allowing Ancient to finish him off. And the rest of Moji and her team have to back up. Overpower is there. Faithfly steadily building along with the snack time from Moji. Is slowly creeping there as well.
Spamming a little bit.
Yeah.
Trying to go for dismounts, little poke, preserve your ammo as best you can, and yet at the same time didn't accomplish really any of those things. But I like the call is the right movement, right? It's just spam a little over there, look for any dismounts, kind of keep some control, and ping out who you might need to find. But unfortunately, Moji does slip through.
Indeed, she does. Her and Khan are holding the left lane once again. Almost so low, but Tay finds a finishing kill. That's going to allow them to start pushing up. You already see them running them down. The damage from Moji is coming through, forcing the Whirlwind to make sure they actually don't go down and die. But Tay and Payan still go down regardless, but not before Tay can actually finish off the kill onto Longshot. That's going to mean a lot. Whirlwind is down, though. Won't have it coming in the next round, but the Overpower, the Fae Flight, the snack time is there. Dethroner is going to go down because Willow was already all the way in the back. She pretty much just conceded that. Dethroner was just trying to stall to see if any of them could come back in time. They weren't able to make it, so they just waited for next round.
And they went and isolated T-Mac as well. It's just like a classic, we're going to separate you, divide and conquer, and the divide was all 5 members of Hype Unit. And even though you're able to maybe slip out, you're not having the exceeding performance I think they were like at the very beginning. Tay was able to get a lot. Payan was able to get a lot. T-Mac even threw his name in the hat. But Edgem hasn't quite been hitting the same way. We've seen Willows this set. And unfortunately for Dethroner, he's been kind of given the short end of the stick because of it.
Right.
Because of all these moments where, much like at the end of the round, it's just trying to do the best you can. But when you don't have the support as a front line, your slash line starts to look even more negative. And so coming into this round, after a warm-up and they kind of know a little bit of what to expect from this Moji, I want to see the adaptation from Exile.
Yeah, I do as well. We already see that pretty much the tier 2 items are coming online with starting their second item on tier 1 for both sides, Hype Unit and Exile. But the Throner being really low, actually affording the rest of an easy kill for Exile in this case. We do see that the damage is coming through though. Moji is there, pretty much holding that flame. She's gonna have to scamper away, make sure she can actually get out, keep herself alive just for a little bit longer. The firebomb's gonna split them up. And in this situation though, nice overpower coming out from Khan, gonna allow them to actually get the kill on a long shot, but will they be able to touch is the question.
And that's gonna be the big one, 99%. It just gets ticked right on over there for Exile. And I mean, you get your overpower incredibly late. Crossfire in response, you get Enlightenment in response. They didn't have a chance to use Snack Time.
Right.
Or to use Through Time and Space, or to use the Faithlight, really. It's just everything they had going for them coming into this Hype Unit just were unfortunately a little too late to use.
Yeah, I 100% agree as well. 2 kills coming out for this on the side of Exile. We're going to leave 2 dead equally on Hype Unit's side. The Through Time and Space is there. Snack Time is still there, as well as Faithlight, which is going to allow them just a little bit of breathing room in some scenarios. Edgem really right here, trying to see if he can wait, get a little feel for where it is that he's trying to go. Take a few shots here and there, but nothing too concrete.
My favorite thing so far about Hype Unit, though, especially out of last week and this week, has been their willingness to explore other champions and kind of play things that might be on the edge. This Moji, so far, has been knocking it out of the park. And for someone who we only ever see on Jaguar Falls, and admittedly very sparingly at that, you're doing an amazing job. Is able to get the snack time right there and find the full-on execute by getting rid of Longshot. Unfortunately, gives maybe a little bit too much, bites off more than they can chew after the snack. And then falls to Babel.
Yeah, I mean, Edgem in this case, man, him and Payan did find 2 kills of their own. But with the Moji going down, though, they still do have defender's advantage. They are immediately back in the fight as soon as they respawn, as opposed to Exile has to make that a little bit of a, just tiny bit of a long trek back to where they were fighting before. The Crossfire and Dome Shield are both ready to go, with Enlightenment going to be up probably the next couple shots for just the next few seconds, really. They are holding this flag. They don't want to be able to afford or really give up this positioning they have right now.
It's going to be good shots, ringing true. The wall comes up to be able to stall a little bit, and this kill could be very important. They get rid of Bagel and Longshot. That's going to solidify a lot, but there's still 30 seconds left. Well, now with everything else, it's definitely tilting in favor of Hype Unit.
Yeah, for sure. 4 kills are down in that situation. In this case, 3 of them are respawning. 1 of them had just respawned, and now the rest of the team of Exile is up. But like you said, at first was a little bit questionable. Now the Hype Unit ended up winning that fight. It's going to be hard for them to get back. And Longshot gets melted almost immediately. Snack Time's almost up again. Payan on the side, eating a little bit of that fire damage as well as a few shots to give himself not only some more health, but also to make sure he can stay in the fight.
Being able to find it, it's a good zone. Nice little shots to be able to either dismount or just control. Maybe even finding a kill here at the end. No, has to go for the battle shot to stay alive himself.
Snack Time.
Snack Time is one of my favorite ults.
Yeah.
It, admittedly, in comparison to a lot of other ults in the game, is weaker as far as executes go, but I think it's a beautiful use of polymorph. I love watching things turn into a snack. And also, it's just fun to watch a dragon chase down dragon trees. At the end of the day, it's very simple.
Yeah, it's simple and also, in my opinion, extremely wholesome. We see the caught 3 is up for Payan, Rejuvenate 2 up for Payan as well. Meanwhile, the level 2s are starting to come out. The Edgem has 2 level 2 record, but also level 2 cauterize. We see it on both sides, actually. Level 2s, level 3s coming online a little bit just to make sure that not only they can stay in this fight, but also letting us know that we're in for a long one.
That's one of the big things when you look at it. You know, I normally mention this when one team is so vastly in the lead, but as of right now,
no.
you have an equal economy because of the way the point captures have gone.
Yeah, exactly. The team fight is breaking out, though, and they do end up losing it. That sucks because of the fact that Genos was actually in such a good spot for a hype unit to maximize on that through time and space. It wasn't enough because Grover popped the whirlwind immediately to make sure that he followed up, allowed his team to make sure that they could also stay alive, win that mid fight, and potentially take this point.
Now dashing forward. It's only 57, well, 60% now for Exile. So they get a lot of control, but they don't have a lead, and it's not, or they do have a lead, but it's not control. It's not over.
Right. You're right.
And so if you can get a touch here, somebody has to touch here, by the way, then you're going to at least be able to prolong it a little bit.
Yeah, but the shots, man, from almost could be a little bit too much, as well as the shield, but good awareness from Tay. Actually allows himself to stay alive just a little bit long crossfire to make sure to not only melt that shield, but now that Pain's down. He's looking for something, just anything to try and hit his mark. Magical barrier trying to keep himself in the corner. Keeps him trapped. Moji with the damage allows him to make sure that Hype Unit can stay in for a little bit longer, even if it's not too much longer.
Keep overtime going. Longshot's almost down. Ancient is almost down. They both have to stay out of the fight for a little bit. That 99% is precariously close to 100, but it's not quite there. And now Longshot, Ancient, both healing up, are going to be in a good position to potentially come back in, retake this objective, and force Tay and crew on out.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we do see a little bit back and forth here. 96% also the point for Hype Unit, but the 2 kills onto Longshot and almost might mean something. Double kill for Bagel, though. Nice awareness, but that leaves 3 alive still on Hype Unit's side. The damage is coming through. And speaking of damage, if you could pull up the damage charts again, I was very curious to see who it is that's actually doing the most. See Moji hitting a lot of these shots, but that's not only the power of just Leon and not necessarily of Barry, but that's Hunting Party in a nutshell right there.
I mean, look at the almost 100,000 damage coming down from the Tyra. Like, Bagel is 11-5. He's doing a ton of work. Even there at the end, like, if it's just a couple of tweaks to those kills, if Ancient lives a little longer, if Longshot doesn't die to get that number 9 in his death field there, then all of a sudden, you're looking at potentially swinging that around because of the impact Bagel has been having. So that damage number, not just coming from him, but also on the Barrack, also on the Leon, has been so impactful.
And right here on the right side, watching for that little flank, also knowing Almost is right there, but she's a little bit too wide. The Dragon's also being a part of her hitbox, can't really hide as well as she'd like to behind that tree. Edgen does find the kill on Longshot though, while also trading the kill onto Payan in that case from Almost and the Leon. A little bit of fights happening here and there. They aren't pushing too far forward, but they are trying to at least get a kill or two to make sure they can push this in.
Trying to set themselves up, keep things rolling forward. Good shots once again from Almost. And again, this is probably the most comfortable he gets in this set, where it's just, I'm going to sit back and do Leon things. I don't have to worry about Moji coming up beside me because of the layout of the map. I can see every entrance she is going to try to come through. Every inch of this payload is covered on my screen. And so I can find anyone and everyone, whoever's going to be high priority targets.
Oh my gosh, he actually got the grab onto that, but the kill in midair. They trade off 1 for 1. Tay and Longshot are gone through time and space to find something to afford themselves just a little bit of more space, but the Throner fighting the kill, that's going to mean a lot for Hype Unit.
Unfortunately for Almost, missed the presence, wasn't able to find the deal and seal it for Edgem. So now this Willow's still alive, being able to find it, forces the crossfire out from Bagel. And they're looking to just try and hold 25 seconds left, but this payload's right on the edge of this corner.
I agree, man. They used Crossfire, but not only that, they used Dome Shield to make sure that not only did they not touch, but to make sure they couldn't get in there. They want to hold out as best as they can, because what that means is that it'll be evened up 3-3 in this case, which allows Exile a chance at life here.
Couple of good shots. Should be able to get overtime. The Throner's trying his best. The wall goes up to keep him alive. He's going to be able to get it, but he is incredibly low. And while they're able to maintain it, Tay's going to have to throw his body down. It's not a safe place to be.
Yeah, it's definitely not. 2 are down on Hype Unit's side. Both of them, Payan and the Throner, are dead. Allows Exile to defend successfully, but they have 4 ultimates all on. They have a snack time. Fey Fly, overpowered. Seismic Crash. And on the flip side of that, I believe Exile really only has about 2 ults, maybe 3 in the works right now. Oh, wow. Just
being able to find it like that. Clean, crisp. And again, if he has a tank there, I think that keeps going. That 11-6 now turns into 12-6, 13-6 potentially as time goes forward. But right now, I think what you're looking at is where these tanks have been. Longshot's getting controlled 5-11. The only person who's maybe getting A worse end right now is Dethroner at 2-11. And so I think Pan is paving the way for them and finding themselves a lot of kills or finding kills for Hype Unit. But the point control is maybe a little too dependent on how much he can do, how much this Willow can do. And the tank fight hasn't been winning in these last two games specifically. It just, or not this game, the game 2 and this game, it hasn't been quite as strong as what we saw in games 1 and 3.
Right, exactly. But at the same time, though, you still have to look at the grand scheme that things have been going sort of still in Hype Unit's favor. They did have to use the Dome Shield. They did have to use a Crossfire at the end of that round because of the pressure that Hype Unit was exuding, and it allowed them more than enough time to really get their bearings together. Exile to be able to come back. But you are right. These frontline fights have not really been finding themselves or working out in a way that they should be.
So far, that's the main transition I want to see. Tay might be able to find a lot, but here's going to be a good seismic crash. What can they find off of it?
Oh, nice. Okay, there's the overpower as well to make sure they can get something going. However, long shot does go down, but so does Pan the block to make sure Enlightenment doesn't go through. They find the kill on the bagel. 2 for 2 for both Hype Unit and Exile is going to mean a lot. They're looking for something here, but 60% onto the point for Exile. It has to say a lot in terms of who's winning this fight.
Honestly, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, where it's just you have a very good ult. It's all down to the follow-up when you're playing frontline. And unfortunately, right now for Dethroner, there hasn't been enough to be able to finalize some of these kills. There's going to be a snack time coming through. It's not found the execute just yet. And through time and space is going to ring true, but they still lose Dethroner.
Yeah, they do. And they also lose Payan. 99% onto the point. 3 kills for Exile. A 1 more will net them the win for Jaguar Falls. No one else is there to contest, and that now leaves it 2-2 against Hype Unit and Exile.
We're on course to keep going with the maximum number of games today. We've got 2 best-of-5s, and now this one's going all the way to 5. So we have 15 games in a row minimum here.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I guess technically now minimum would be like 18 or something, but that's math, and we're not allowed to do that on cast. Either way, a lot of it comes down to the Pan. Like, Pan looks good.
Right.
Is Moji the right pick? I like it, but I don't think it's bringing as much to the table as we saw out of what Exile had, which I think Exile, it's not the DPS really difference that they won, and although Tyra numbers definitely tweaked that way up, it's
for sure.
I think in the tanks.
Top 3 damages in the game were both Leon, Tyra, and Barrick, and you see it right here. 131,000, 122,000, 120,000. That's just the power of hunting party. That is so hard for them to do. But at the same time, Payan, Edgem, they weren't too far behind.
Yeah.
Would have taken Tyra out of the picture. They would have been really close to almost, or maybe even Ancient. It wouldn't have been as doubled as that.
And I think that's the key phrasing you use is if you take Tyra out of the picture. The problem is Tyra's in the picture.
Right.
If she's not there, Dethroner and Tay don't have anywhere near the time they did. I mean, the 153K taken, the 154K taken on their slots. You see them maybe being able to survive a lot more. There's not as much pressure. But having that much damage increase from literally every source of damage on your team means that Tyra not only going 14, 7, and 18 and doing top damage herself, but facilitates Barrick going that high, facilitates Aspect hitting that hard, Longshot, almost everybody on the team hitting just a little harder. And it's just part of the strengths of Tyra right now.
Yeah, I mean, Tyra, man. Literally, what else can you say?
Kicked in the throat next patch, so you got to get it while you have it now.
I love that phrasing because it's true. She literally is going to pretty much be, not necessarily nothing, but the power that you see that she has now, not going to be as prominent into the next patch. You see right now, she's just applying that Hunter's Mark to whoever it is that she needs to, focusing on Tay, focusing on Payan, doing this damage to the rest of Hype Unit, and it's able to melt those tanks so efficiently, even more so squishies. If Moji didn't have Magical Barrier, she would have been in a way worse spot.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing. I mean, with all the survivability on Hype Unit, damage reduction on an R, you have the Magic Barrier on Moji, like a lot of things that are built to keep you alive longer, they still end up melting in a lot of those scenarios, especially as items come online the later the game goes. Like Exile, they had a really good draft for it, and that Tyra really, with the way it was played, wins them the game.
Well, Hype Unit and Exile are both tied up. Jaguar Falls going into the pockets of Exile, making us go to a Game 5. Moji may not have won, but she wins in my heart. We'll see you guys right after this break.
SteelSeries, the official peripheral provider of the Paladins minor league.
Welcome back, everyone, and wouldn't you have guessed it, we're going to another Game 5 on the back end of a successful campaign by Exile there on Jaguar Falls. Ancient has had himself quite the series, another good one on Barrack that time around. Bagel, wow. The whole crew over on Exile playing their role. Unfortunately, Kresnik, the emoji did not quite hit the mark this time. Actually, it had 14
it was
kills.
doing
It was
well.
fine. The 12, 13 deaths, though. You want to leave that one at home.
Positive on emoji, I think, is
I guess
an
that's
achievement all unto itself.
It's not
And
negative.
like the snack times were hitting. The only one that didn't was the one that mattered at the very end. Through time and space and a snack time spent on one person, both missed. Dethroner dies. That fight just falls apart.
It's true. It's all very close. And again, I mean, this is something we've seen out of Hype Unit where there are these sets when you can see maybe just leagues ahead of the team that they're playing against, but then down the stretch just can't quite close things out. That would have sealed the deal if they were able to win that last round of things. Of course, they don't, so Exile now coming out on top. Map 5 is where we're going to head, though. One final game to decide it all. Ice Mines it is. And if Symmetry has anything to say about it, then Hype Unit wins this one for a nice checkerboard effect down the side here.
And I want to see this draft for this map because we talked about how Ice Mines is a map where you can kind of bring out anything that is good at zoning, right? It's like a zone-focused map. It's different things have been good on this map historically. Willow, Tyra were being picked even when they weren't good, and Willow being good means she's going to be banned.
Yeah, no more.
The kind of the double up good effect is a little bit too much for Exile to deal with, so they get rid of that. Hype Unit are going to pick up Khan, which I think is a solid first pick. From its map.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. And an immediate Cassie Genos answer there from Exile. I also think that has a good bit of merit, especially going into a con. A little bit of extra damage up against him. I mean, I look now at the blasters. Of course, Ice Mines has sort of become a picture of flexibility. Pip is something that kind of came to mind. Payan played it time and time again in the PPL. Certainly can play it here in the minor league.
I will fight to
has
protect
plenty
the
of room
sanctity
to
of the
succeed
wild.
here on Ice Mines. So I think that pick makes a lot of sense.
We've actually even seen Edge Pip last time.
Yeah.
Because we had Payan
True.
Dredge.
That's
if I
true.
remember correctly.
Yeah, that's right.
And that could come out again. I mean, the start of this draft
can get
is
us out
saying
if
that
you're
could be the
alive.
same thing.
Stay
Exile, though,
close
with an
and
aggressive
follow
draft,
my
they can kind of
lead.
push into that dredge, the Ash, Genos, Cassie.
We dwarves are
They can
natural
overwhelm
fighters.
that side of the
I
map
just
really
hope your
quickly.
lads
Right.
can
So
keep up.
maybe not Dredge, but I mean, if they have faith in Payan's ability to connect those directs, I mean, I wouldn't be too shocked to see it.
I think interestingly enough here, they're going to leave open the last flex pick for Exile on the opposite side. So Exile will be able to answer back one more damage dealer depending on what Hype Unit pick here. It's going to be the Drogos. I imagine it's combustible.
Most likely.
Not combustible. Combustible here.
It could be either.
Could be both. One or the other. Tyra looks to be the answer that
Give
Exile
them
has.
hell.
Okay, yeah, and the double blaster from Hype Unit, again, this is the second time we've seen it, and I like that as a response to the Willow ban, because now they're kind of blaster starved, they have to go with this Tyra. They're double direct at this point,
Sure.
minus the firebomb, so they could potentially just get zoned out if Hype Unit play defensive enough.
That's always the potential. No matter what, somebody's winning this set, and it'll happen right here on Ice Mines. Game 5, take it away.
What a map to end on for this set is Ice Mines. We see it quite often, not necessarily the fact of it being picked a lot, but we see it being sometimes for some sets the final map that people opt to go for.
And it's one of those maps that can go 4-3, can go 4-0, as the way we've seen it lately. So I think it's very telling for Hype Unit that they want to come here.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm a little upset because you get the blasters, and I was hoping they'd pull out the dredge again, but
Oh.
I guess I'll have to wait another day. Either
Hey,
way, it's
man.
going to be perfectly fine. We still get double blaster with the Pip and the
Let
Drogos.
battle begin.
The biggest thing for Exile, though, Tyra did great last game.
Yeah.
Is really good against the Drogos here. If she can find the right angles, this could potentially still be a big factor.
Right, exactly. I do agree with that. But most these people are just going to really try and hold this bridge, try and hold the high ground in this scenario. We just see a few shots happening right here into Exile from Payan. They are getting what they need, but they aren't quite finding any kills yet, but they are finding 30% of the point for them already.
Jeez,
Oh my
combustible.
gosh.
I always forget how big the knockback can truly be when you hit that Dragon Spit, but
Yeah.
it's enough to knock Barrack around, make him kind of feel it through his skeleton down to his bones. Right now, I mean, it's 75% so far clean. They haven't been able to really leave their hallway on the side of Exile right now. Couple of blast shots down onto Barrett might honestly be enough to make this go from 99 to 100.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, they really haven't found the opportunity to, I mean, I'm trying to find out a word for it. It's really just the opportunity to find some sort of momentum, and you already see it, man. Barrett's being fought off the point already. They haven't really found their kill yet, and that will be it on to Payan, but look at that, man. 2 kills for Tay, 1 for Edgem, makes it 3, scratch that, 4 in the case of Hype Unit. That's going to mean a lot coming into this next fight.
And being able to set themselves up almost immediately to get this payload rolling, that's a perfect start for you right there.
Yeah.
But you're also, I mean, at the end of the day, you lost your Drogos, which
Right.
admittedly, out of the 4 champions on here, I would argue is most likely to die, maybe followed by Pip. They might be right next to each other, but it really is going to be him who's targeted out and maybe easiest to melt down.
Right.
But given the job and given the role that he can have, and much like this, where it's just long-range damage, where he doesn't even have to see the person in order to confirm it, it is impressive for Hype Unit.
Gosh, they smell blood, but he fell down into the through time and space, so that allows the trade to at least be a little bit more even. Both teams losing one of their damages in this case, but the seismic crash is going to be huge. Aspect does get picked off by Edgem. It's going to force the rest of them back. Commander's grab. Don't try and run away from Khan. He's going to make sure you stay invested in this fight, along with the damage coming out from Edgem. It's going to mean a lot for Hype Unit pushing his payload in.
Yeah, these shots are almost perfect coming down where you need them. Everybody surrounding them. That is the kind of team play that just eradicates you when you're playing against it. Much like you saw to Exile there, where it's controlled, that you don't know where to look because there's 4 targets swarming you, and they kind of take control of the chaos of your Hype Unit and force it to, well, find themselves a team fight win, keep the payload moving, and now they've broken the base.
Have indeed. You already see the Throner pretty much pushing the point. No one's really able to contest because look at the pressure Drogos is putting out. Look at the pressure that is coming from Payan right now. Edgem and the rest of Hype Unit covering this high ground so effectively, forcing them all back in base. Barry being one of the only ones that's alive, but they want to be able to push this one in because clearly they want to kill on the Ancient, pushing them all the way back, killing him, forcing 3, maybe 4 individuals on Exile to stay in their base.
You know, it's not one that I think they're going to go to incredibly often, but I'm starting to feel like there's pretty decent reasoning to start banning Ice Mines when you play Hype Unit. They are very good at it, as it turns out. They dropped 2 kills that entire time. Both of them were found by Aspect. One of them was through time and space. They might have both been through time and space, honestly. Onto the Drogos, which, as you would guess, is the only 2 deaths on the side of Hype Unit. Unfortunately for Payan, he hasn't been able to kind of pick up any of the kills. And it's that moment where it's just like he's, as much as it sucks to be this, but he's kind of sacrificial lamb. If anyone's going to die, I would rather it be the Drogos and let everybody else go on such an insane streak of control than to kind of trade it out and have Payan have a really good slash line, but no one else is having the same impact.
Oh, I've never seen that before. Now I know you can do it, but I have never seen somebody hit that between the slits of the bars right as you're coming out of spawn.
A little bit of line of sight, a little bit of hopes and dreams, and you're going to be able to get everything you want.
Gosh, dude.
That is arguably the worst way, like for Exile, to start a point fight.
Yeah, I mean, like look at Longshot hasn't moved. He just moved. He's just like, well, this is my life
guess
now.
I'll die then.
Yeah, guess I'll die then. Just shrugs like, what am I supposed to do in this scenario? Longshot being zoned out along with the rest of Exile, having to wait for Barrett to come all the way back. He is using the Dragon Punch pretty much to just zone, make sure they don't get a little bit too frisky with trying to contest this Inara. And as a result, they are pushing back to try and stop this Ashe. The Whirlwind coming through, healing everybody in a range. But the Evil Mojo's going to get something started, but he manages to matrix his way away from through time and space.
And that's just that, like, you can feel there's a couple of singed hairs on Pip's face now from how close that was to connecting on him. Definitely the smell of burnt Vulpine as it comes through. A little bit of damage, though, being dealt to Dethroner, causing a lot of trouble here. Longshot getting aggressive. This is actually a really good comeback from Exile, given how this point fight has been going so far.
Yeah, I agree. 99% onto the point for them. And really, if anything, somebody has to touch. But I feel like considering how things are going, Hype Unit just went, okay, we'll give him this point. We are up 2-1. But at the same time, I feel like the zone hasn't really gotten to a point from Exile where it can be super, super aggressive. A nice fire spit coming out from Payan as well to get something started.
I think, honestly, there's a lot of people who I think credit should go to for how Exile retake that. Obviously, their tank staying alive is a big part, but I actually think it starts with the Genos. I think it starts with that through time and space. I think if that evil Mojo comes through and finds a kill, if you don't force away Edgem and cause some distress there for Hype Unit to make sure they don't convert that kill, then they're still sitting on the point. In fact, actually now I guess they would be the ones who are finding this push. So Exile play the point fight incredibly well.
My goodness.
But they so far haven't been able to convert that over into any of the payload push.
It's literally, what can they do in this scenario? Pain's hitting all of these fire spits, and it's forcing them to really rethink how they're approaching this. Another fire spit hit as well, pretty much just to apply this zoning, get this pressure, and the Dragon Punch he used to make sure they killed that barrack was for this reason. They wanted the zone, they wanted the aggression, they can't really push forward.
And what's even better for me personally out of all of that is just that you get all of that damage done, but there's no follow-up. It's just a ton of irritating poke that's being dealt to Exile as they try to get back.
Look at
now there's a chance for follow-up though, and it's distressful because you're sitting at half health and you just can't heal.
I mean, yeah, like Longshot really is just being not only staggered out as they're pushing the payload, but that's going to have some really, really negative ramifications for Exile. Tay has to back off, though. The damage coming out from both Tyra and Cassie is a little bit too much for him to handle. They're going to have to give him a little bit more respect, and they are pushed at least like halfway. 35%, not 35%, excuse me. 35 seconds left on the clock for them to really get this one in, if they can.
Trying to figure out how to do so. Well, they have the bodies right now, and they have the ults if they want to convert it. But again, you're playing the game of how badly do we want to ult versus how badly do we want to keep this for the mid-fight. It's going to depend on, I think, the angles that are played right here. And Almost is finding a really good one to get some damage down onto the Dragon.
Yeah, he's looking for some type of opening, something to really get himself in a spot to where he can find a kill for his team, potentially. But he's just taking a little bit too much damage. The wall to keep him back as well. He backed up a little bit too far, got walled off by Anara, and now they're up 3-1. Evil Mojo's up. We see the world with, my goodness, that in the arms of the angel immediately just pulled so slowly into Khan. That overpower, I've never seen that.
And that replay is perfect because that's an incredibly thin gap.
It is. That's what I'm saying.
Through. Like that's why that's as impressive as it is. The reason you don't see it as often as you could is because
who hits that?
Yeah,
first off,
like you can't spam E.
Right,
you can't
exactly.
hit the button multiple times. You get one shot through that small sliver to be able to get him. And so that was incredible from Tay to be able to find that one. Doesn't have the overpower, so there's no chance for a repeat, which maybe means that Exile will at least start with their right foot forward here. But that was probably the worst case scenario to start a point fight.
I mean, I'm speechless in that scenario if I'm Exile, and also if I'm Hype Unit too, because who would expect somebody to hit that at the same time though? With Pan going down, this might mean something for Exile, especially since they're using so many ultimates to not give Hype Unit the chance to really breathe here. And with comeback mechanics, it's going to mean a lot too. They might be able to cap this before they really can even make it back.
I think a lot's going to depend. Evil Mojo right here charged up. A lot of ults charged up for Hype Unit. And they need to be willing to use them to be able to find Reek.
Here it comes.
There, it's going to be the first one. Can they get a kill?
That's going to be huge for Hype Unit. They do manage to get 2 kills. Dragon Punch comes through as well, comes right around the corner, finds himself on Aspect Combustible. The damage is coming through. Hype Unit with multiple kills on their side, almost a full team wipe in that case, are going to get an aggressive zone. And on top of that, are going to make sure that they try and cap this out. Grover dancing on point. How are you going to find a way to get back if you're Exile?
I mean, that's just lambs to the slaughter, right? Everything you needed to have happen if you're Hype Unit right there happens, and you're able to control, corral, everything you would want away from Exile. And it all starts on the back of Pan. That was a great Evil Mojo,
man.
but 2 kills, the follow-up on it is even more important. The fact that they got those immediately off the bat, then a Dragon Punch, it was just 3 executes, essentially.
Right, I mean, the games were close. We did end Ice Mines at 4-1, but coordinate, like, I'm so impressed by Hype Unit, like almost every time I see them. Their coordination, their awareness, how they play together as a team is always so shocking to see. Like, I'm still blown away by that Khan overpower. Like, I've never seen that.
That was incredible as far as things come down, and that was Tay, of course, someone who has been, I would argue, one of the most prominent off tanks. That if there's ever a single point that someone needs a new off-tank in the Premier League. He is probably #1 on my list right now with the history so far that I've seen this year. 5-1-13 for him. The 2-1-18 for T-Max. 7-0-13 for Edgem. They were just undying, and they brought a lot, like not only a good suite of ultimates, but they utilized them in so many fantastic ways.
Yeah, I mean, Edgem once again ain't no, like I'm talking about Edgem because a 0-death game, 7-0-13, so powerful. When you have Pip in the right hands, we've seen it from Bittner. We've seen it a little bit from Alex. We've seen it from Simsaloo. We've seen it from some PPL level players as well. And once again, I'm saying that Edgem was the PPL player, but at the same time, this is the power of Pip when you have him in the right hands.
And it's, again, these moments, right? Recognizing I can get aggressive. And he leaves the Ashe behind. He says, I don't have to kill her. I recognize my team can do this. I'm going for the long shot.
Exactly.
Goes past long shot to find the kill. Gets rid. And with both of those chickens being found, like, is a good evil mojo with great follow-up, which is the perfect opener to the end of the game.
Of course, and with that being the last match on Ice Mines as well, they do bring themselves up 3-2 over Exile. But right after this break, we will get into the last set for the PML today in North America. Stay tuned.
Alienware, the official PC provider of the Paladins minor league.